A big move that could transform the Texans' offseason plans. This changes everything, but it's not the move you might expect. Texans have a lot to do this offseason. They need wide receiver, and Nick Caserio has made that known that he's going to make some moves. First thing he's done, he's transformed the cap space. We all know the Texans don't have a lot of cap space, but that's what Caserio did today with Nico Collins. It's going to be a great episode. We're going to break it down as to what the Texans might look towards in terms of offseason free agency as well as the draft. But first things first, if you would, hit that sub button. Would really appreciate any support. This is the place to be for Texans news. We've been breaking it down. We just talked about DK Metcalf. But this move right here, the Texans just restructured Nico Collins' contract. And the question is this for the Texans to go get a receiver like DK Metcalf? Do they want to take on a big contract? I would say no. This move is mainly because the Texans need cap space. And the biggest problem that the Texans have kind of been trying to work around is how do they get that, right? So they finally get some cap space in Nico Collins getting that some of his salary to a signing bonus. So that is huge for the Texans. But now, who do you go get? And that's probably the point of this video, is who do the Texans go sign? The Texans up to about $15 million in cap space. Diggs is no longer an option for this team, which is pretty surprising. So, Collins, cap space, huge. Do the Texans go get a guy who was just cut in Davante Adams? That's another question as well. Adams is the number one kind of wide receiver on the block outside of T. Higgins getting franchise tagged. So with Higgins franchise tagged and a big trade, unless the Texans want to pursue that, it's unlikely. So do you go get Davante Adams? That's a big if. Adams, 32 years old. He's not the guy he once was, but he could be a good veteran. He's a great route runner. He could be a great complementary to Nico Collins. Another guy I love, Chris Godwin. I know he's coming off season-ending ankle surgery. That was a bad injury we saw last season. But that could be a great plug and play, a great fit for this Texans wide receiving core with Stephon Diggs looking very unlikely to return. You have Tank Dell. He's getting ACL surgery. That has been very bad. So, the Texans wide receiver room, we all know it has problems. We all know it needs improvement. The other thing is the guard position. The Texans don't have really anybody to go get at guard. You have left tackle is Titus Howard or Laremy Tunsil. Then it's either left guard is Howard, right tackle is Howard. He can move all the way around the line. Brandon Sheriff's a good option. James Daniels, you got Kappa, Zeitler. I look all the way down to Dalton Reisner as well. I mean, there's a lot of options. Even Becton kind of revived his career on the Eagles last year. So there's a lot you can go around with. But the question is, who do you sign for cheap? Because I feel like the Texans right now are in such a big spot, and this will kind of be crucial as to what they decide to do for this season. Let's go take a look at wide receiver and Davante Adams. Adams last season, if we're breaking down wide receiver, is Davante Adams really somebody you want on the Texans? I ask you guys who are listening, is Davante Adams worth signing a 2-year, $25 or maybe $35 million contract? He's probably going to get $20 a year, similar to Diggs. But Adams, I think, is a solid wide receiver. So it's a problem of who do you take the risk on? Because the Texans don't have a lot of money. And honestly, I don't know what Nick Caserio's plans are. That's where I would ask the audience, right? Who do the Texans go get? The three positions they need is offensive line, wide receiver, and defensive line. And they've already expressed interest in defensive tackle, nose tackle Sheldon Rankins from the Cincinnati Bengals, he was injured last year. He had a health issue. So I don't mind that. That's not a bad idea for a 1-year kind of $7.5 million prove-it deal. That would be fine. But I feel like that this is the first of many moves for Nick Caserio. This is not something where he's just going to say, yeah, we have enough cap space. He's probably going to try and ask Laremy Tunsil to restructure, Titus Howard to restructure, everybody down the list. Joe Mixon, hey, you want to get some salary and signing bonus right now? That's what he's trying to do because he needs cap space for right now, and that's the biggest problem is the Texans don't have money. They also need a lot of positions. And the thing I love about Nick Caserio is the fact that he's trying to get things done right now. They're trying to win a Super Bowl right now. And I know that sounds dumb in what I'm saying, but this is the window to try and go on a run. Last year, you had a hyped up offense. Collins, Diggs, Schultz, Mixon. Everybody was getting hyped up, and then it just kind of crumbled. There were injuries. Bobby Slowick didn't play up the standards. The play calling was bad. Everything kind of fell apart, and the offensive line was a big problem of that. And half of that was on the play calling because there were so long developing plays that Stroud didn't have time to throw for 3 seconds. So, big thing, offensive line. Second biggest thing, I've already talked about it 800 times, but the question is, can you revive the team in one season? Fire the offensive coordinator, get Nick Caley in there, maybe go get a Cooper Kupp if they release him and his contract. That could be a good reunion with his former passing game coordinator. So Nick Caley is a good offensive mind. I like the way we got him in there. The thing is now it's time to reshape the offense. You got your coaching staff. You're ready to go. DeMeco Ryans couldn't bring in Deebo Samuel. I was a little bit disappointed, but Nico Collins restructured his contract. That's the biggest thing, and it's a huge move because now the Texans go from $5 million to $15 million, and they're going to restructure other contracts. They also just re-signed Dare Obungwale, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the backup running back. We're probably going to draft a running back, but there's just a lot still to happen, and you're kind of just edging for that free agency, like, give me something to look out for the NFL. Like, I want something, right? So this is huge for the Texans. Big contract, kind of spread out. So Collins, I feel like this is a kind of little bit of a sneak peek as to, hey, we're cutting Nico Collins' salary to signing bonus. Let's go get another wide receiver, right? So the Texans, worst case scenario, they don't get a wide receiver. They re-sign or they sign, let's say, DeAndre Hopkins or Jawan Jennings or somebody on a cheaper contract. They revamp the offensive line, get a Kevin Zeitler, get a Dalton Reisner, somebody that could play the guard positions, Titus on right, Larmy on the left, and in the draft, they go and get Emeka Egbuka. Now, hypothetically, if that's what the team looks like, you have Stroud under center, Mixon in the backfield, Tunsil as your blindside tackle, you have Kevin Zeitler as your left guard, Patterson as your center, and then you go to the right guard position, that'll be Reisner, and then right tackle could be Howard. I think that's a great offensive line as to what happened last year. You could probably be more of a pass-first team, I would say, with Stroud. I know it's hard to say that if you don't get a wide receiver, but if they do trade up for Emeka Egbuka, that could be crazy. Just saying. I know there's still a lot to do, and next video we'll probably break down move by move why the Texans should go after certain players. But for right now, I leave it into your guys' hands. Let me know what you think the Texans do at every position. What's their biggest position that they need? I think their defense has been kind of solid. The offense kind of needs the most work. I would even consider trying to restructure Dalton Schultz's contract because that's a big number that you can try to convert to salary or trade him or cut him. Shaq Mason's still on the roster. So don't expect the Texans to be done. This is something that they're going to figure out, and it's going to be sooner rather than later. The Texans, Nick Caserio, he's going to make a lot of moves, and that's the thing. Do you go get a wide receiver? Do you go get a guard? Do you go get a D tackle? What do you do, right? There's so many different things that Caserio will try and do. I think first priority, offensive line. Second priority, 1A, 1B is wide receiver, offensive line. It's been the biggest priority, biggest thing we've talked about for the past week and a half, and Devontae Adams could be a decent pick. Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, there's a lot of veteran wide receivers. Keenan Allen, they're not terrible options. They're good route runners, and they're good secondary options to Nico Collins. The thing is, I want a younger wide receiver who has some upside, who has some talent, who we can bring in and have a good relationship with. And that honestly sounds like Emeka Egbuka on a silver platter because of Stroud and Ibuka's connection in college. Now, will that happen? We probably won't see it. But man, would that be fun to watch. So we talked about DK. We talked about potentially Garrett Wilson. He's not coming. T. Higgins. All the wide receivers are just saying, all right, we're going to stay with our teams. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened with DK and all the other wide receivers that have been rumored to be traded. But that'll do it for me in this video. Thank you guys for watching. Again, hit that sub button if you're new. 5% of you who are watching are sub to the channel. Let's get this thing growing. Let's get this thing popping before free agency. But we're going to be here regardless. So if you're here, if you made it this far, go ahead and comment who the Texans are going to sign first. It could be anybody. It could be unrealistic, but I think it's always fun to kind of make that kind of prediction. So, again, appreciate all the support, and we'll get you in the next episode. Appreciate everyone.